Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. No alien could wear it. Then a human claimed the armor, and war awakened. The armor had sat untouched for over 1,000 cycles, a relic of war buried in the vaults of the Varnak Confederation. Rumored to have been forged by a long-dead civilization with knowledge lost to time, countless alien species, warlords, champions, scientists, and fools had tried to bond with it. None had lasted more than a few seconds before the armor rejected them. Bones snapped, flesh boiled, and screams echoed through the chambers like curses. They called it the void skin, sentient, they said, aware and angry. Its creators were wiped out, possibly by the armor itself, and now it waited, always waiting. That was until the humans came. Humans were late to the galactic stage, primitive, chaotic, and emotionally unstable. But their rise was fast, too fast. They had a strange knack for breaking what others built and surviving what should have killed them, and that made them dangerous, or maybe just different. Captain Reyna Marrero didn't look like a galactic savior. She wasn't bred for war or enhanced with cybernetic strength. Just a former scavenger from the outer colonies, now serving under a provisional peacekeeping unit attached to the Varnak borderlands, she bore scars, deep ones, both emotional and physical, but none of that mattered to the armor. Not yet. Her squad had stumbled across the hidden vault while chasing pirate signals in the Derek system. The energy readings were off the charts, and before anyone could stop her, Reyna stepped inside. "What is this place?" she whispered. "Classified," the Varnak said, jittering nervously, his skin shimmering in fear as an involuntary reflex. "You're not allowed to be here." She ignored him. The armor stood upright in the center of the room, mounted like a statue but thrumming like a beast, black metal carved with crimson veins pulsing softly as if breathing. The moment Reyna saw it, she felt something twist in her chest, not fear, not awe, but recognition. Her hand moved without thinking, brushing against the plating. The tech screamed, "No!" but it was too late. A shock wave slammed through the room, hurling everyone back. Lights burst, alarms blared, and the ground cracked beneath her boots. Yet Reyna did not fall. The armor moved, its plating unfolded piece by piece, floating midair, then slid around her body like liquid steel. No screams, no melting, no rejection. It accepted her. The room fell silent, stunned. Then, as if awakened by her presence, the armor's core flared. A red blaze surged from the chest, pulsing like a heartbeat. Symbols once dead came to life. Somewhere in the vastness of the galaxy, deep in forgotten space, machines stirred, old ones, deadly ones, waiting for a signal. Reyna collapsed to her knees as the armor fused completely. "Captain, are you okay?" A voice crackled in her ear. Her own voice replied, but it wasn't fully mine anymore. "Something's coming, something old, and it knows I'm here." She felt it. War had been asleep, and now it was wide awake. Reyna sat in the center of the ruined vault, the armor clinging to her like a second skin. It didn't feel like metal anymore. It felt alive, warm, almost as if blood pulsed beneath it. She could hear it, not with her ears, but somewhere deeper, like a whisper brushing against the back of her skull, a voice without language, a presence without shape. Her team stared at her like she were some kind of monster or a miracle. The Varnak tech, Thorn, backed away until he hit the wall. "It chose you," he muttered, trembling. "It chose you, that's not possible." Reyna slowly turned toward him, every movement now perfectly balanced, too smooth to be natural. "You said no one could wear it. Hundreds have tried and died, screaming that thing kills everything it touches," he stuttered, looking pale and sick. You're not supposed to be alive." "Well," she said flatly, "I guess no one told the armor that the rest of my squad remained frozen in the corridor." Weapons were lowered, but eyes remained wide. Even the hard-nosed Sergeant Kell, who had seen a decade of war on the outer rims, looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Cap, are you all right in there?" he asked cautiously. "I think so," Reyna answered, though uncertainty lingered. Something inside her felt different, stronger, as if every cell in her body was humming. The armor didn't just protect her, it was bonding with her, sinking in, learning her. Her HUD lit up with foreign symbols scrolling too fast to process, yet somehow she understood what they meant. It was ancient tech, far beyond anything in the galactic archives. Then she felt it deep in her chest, like a warning bell. Her head snapped upward. "They're coming," she said. Back on their cruiser, alarms screamed. Thorn scrambled for a terminal. I'm picking up multiple warp signatures, fast, heavy old tech, neither Varnak nor anything modern. He looked up pale. They're not just coming, they've already arrived. Reyna walked past him, her boots thudding softly, the armor adjusting around her. Doors slid open before she even reached them. The ship recognized her, and now everything was sinking. "Get me visuals," she ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing a stretch of black space glittering with red ships, dozens of them, dark, jagged, ancient war machines that belonged to no known race. They were shaped like insects, spiked and crawling as if grown, not built. At the center of the fleet was something enormous, a carrier or maybe a hive. Its hull was cracked and poolsing, its engines leaking a sickly green glow like a rotting wound. It moved slowly but with terrifying purpose. "Who the hell are they?" muttered Kell. Thorne's voice cracked. "I've seen those designs in the Forbidden Records. They're from before the collapse, that's pre-divide tech. It's impossible." Reyna stared at the screen, her heart pounding not with fear but with a strange certainty. "They're not here for the Varnak," she said. "They're not even here for the galaxy. They came for me." Suddenly, the HUD in her helmet flared, and a message in alien text appeared. She didn't need a translation. "Welcome back, wielder. War resumes." The cruiser shook violently as the first wave of energy struck its outer shields. Red alarms and flashing lights bathed the control room in panic. Outside, the alien fleet began surrounding them like wolves closing in on a wounded animal. Reyna did not flinch. She could feel the hum of the armor syncing with the ship systems without touching a single control. She accessed the defense grid, and data surged through her thoughts like wildfire, weapon schematics, shield positions, power reserves. It was overwhelming, yet somehow manageable. The armor filtered, organized, and taught her defensive positions. "Divert full power to the forward shields. Brace for impact," she shouted. Her crew stared at her in astonishment. Thorne blinked, asking, "How the hell do you know our shield modulation protocols?" "I didn't," she replied, eyes fixed on the screen. Another blast slammed into them. The ship groaned but held. Reyna then turned toward Kell. "We can't win this in orbit. We need to land on the surface and draw them away from the civilians." "Land with that fleet out there," Kell barked. "They don't want the ship, they want me. Then I'll give them what they want, and when they come for me, I'll make them regret it." The room fell quiet. No one dared argue. 30 minutes later, the ship broke atmosphere, tearing through the clouds of a nearby uninhabited moon. It was all mountains and ash. No cities, no colonies, no witnesses. A perfect battleground, unrecorded. Reyna stepped out of the drop hatch as soon as the cruiser touched down. The armor shifted around her, reinforcing her limbs and wrapping her back with what looked like wing-like extensions, blades, perhaps. The moment her boots hit the ground, the air rippled, the temperature dropped, and energy licked off her like static from a live wire. She wasn't just wearing the armor anymore, she was the armor. The alien ships followed fast. They didn't land like normal vessels. They burrowed into the ground, digging, crawling, cracking the crust beneath them. From their mossy exteriors, creatures unlike any seen before emerged. Hybrids, twisted ancient war beasts, not fully biological, not fully mechanical. They moved like predators, hunched low with limbs that bent unnaturally and eyes that glowed like coals. Some had multiple heads, others hovered without wings. All locked onto Reyna the moment they arrived, and they didn't roar. They hissed, unified in a tongue meant for nightmares. Kell's voice buzzed in her earpiece. "You're not fighting that army alone." Reyna did not immediately respond. She stepped forward, her armored boots melting the ground beneath her as the wind whipped ash into the air like snow. "You're right," she said, raising her arm. The armor lit up with burning red lines across her limbs and chest. The ground cracked beneath her and her voice shifted, layered, distorted, old. "I'm not alone." All around her, dark, strange shapes rose from the stone. Ancient constructs buried beneath the surface, forgotten war machines, tall, skeletal figures with blade arms and shielded backs, neither alive nor dead. The armor had awakened them. Her army had been buried with the armor all along, now they stood behind her. One of the constructs hissed and charged. Reyna waited until it was 2 feet away, then raised her hand and snapped her fingers. The construct to her right lunged forward, its blade driving straight through the beast's chest. Reyna stared at the others. "Come then," she whispered. "Let's finish what your master started." The war had not merely awakened the armor. It had awakened something far greater. The sky turned black as the alien fleet fully descended, blotting out the stars above. Ash-covered ships hung like vultures, motionless yet ominous, waiting, observing, measuring her. Reyna stood at the center of a slowly growing army, ancient constructs, nearly 24 in number, each over 7 feet tall, carved from dark alloy that shimmered like obsidian under lightning. Though their forms were imperfect, some half-shattered, limping, or missing limbs, they responded to her presence like loyal war dogs. One moved beside her, emitting a grinding hum as if eager to be unleashed. Behind her, Kel and the rest of the squad held the outer perimeter of the drop zone, wide-eyed and silent. No one dared ask where these things had come from. No one dared get close. "Status on the creatures?" Reyna asked calmly amid the chaos. "They've stopped advancing. They're holding formation at about 400 meters, surrounding us but not attacking. It's like they're waiting for something," Kel replied. "They are," Reyna said, her eyes locked on the sea of hybrid beasts. "They're waiting for their master." Just then the ground trembled and the air pulsed. From the largest alien ship, a figure descended. He did not ride a craft, he was the craft, towering, armored in black and crimson like a living monument of death. The being floated down in absolute silence, his body shifting like molten armor that refused to settle. He landed with a thunderous crack, shattering a ring of stone around him. At last, the two sides faced one another, the wielder and the warbringer. Reyna did not flinch. The figure stood taller than her by at least 3 feet. A jagged crown fused into his helmet, and 6 glowing eyes burned like dying stars. When he spoke, it was not with sound, but with pressure, pulses, and thoughts that slammed directly into her skull. "Wielder, you were not meant to rise," he intoned. She stepped forward, her own armor surging red light through her veins. "And yet here I am. You wear our legacy like a thief. You were chosen by mistake. That armor was never meant for your kind. You bleed, you rot, you die so easily," the warbringer retorted. "I also fight," she replied, stepping forward once again as her constructs formed ranks on either side. "Unlike you, I don't need 1,000 years of slumber to remember." The warbringer raised one hand. A low vibration passed through the entire moon. Every hybrid beast shifted and then charged, hundreds of them. Reyna did not hesitate. Forming ranks, she roared, her voice echoing not just in the air but in the minds of her army. The constructs responded instantly, slamming into position in front of her, their shield arms locking together like an ancient phalanx. Meanwhile, her squad formed their own defensive perimeter. The first wave of beasts crashed into the construct line, and chaos erupted. Steel clashed with bone, blades pierced chests, and sparks and black blood filled the air. Already in motion, Reyna's armor propelled her forward like a missile. She collided with a hulking hybrid and split it in half with a single sweep of her arm. The armor formed a blade as needed, morphed into claws, and even became a cannon, always adapting, always perfect. She was fury incarnate, yet even as she cut through the wave, she felt the warbringer watching, unmoving, calculating. She knew this wasn't the real battle, it was a test. He was measuring her. What he couldn't feel was the storm building inside her. The armor wasn't just connecting her to an army, it was connecting her to a memory that was waking up. The battlefield burned beneath a blood-red sky, scorched by plasma fire and the violent dance of ancient weapons. Reyna moved like a ghost through the chaos, her body no longer solely her own but an extension of the armor's will. Every strike was flawless, every dodge pre-calculated. She wasn't thinking. She was remembering flashes of something unfamiliar yet deeply embedded. Between kills, a tower of black stone, a voice calling her name but not the name Reyna, and the memory of a war not of her time surged through her mind. The armor wasn't merely protecting her, it was feeding her a past, the final moments, victories, and regrets of its previous wielders. One truth burned through it all. This war had happened before, and the last time it hadn't ended, it had been sealed. That was why the armor waited, why it rejected others. It wasn't just seeking strength, it was seeking vengeance. Reyna ducked another attack and drove her knee into the warbringer's head, knocking him off balance. Then she leaped skyward, her armor surging with stored energy, a blinding, angry glow. Raising her arms above her head, she descended like judgment. The battlefield erupted. The blast tore a canyon into the moon's crust. Flames erupted in every direction, and her impact cratered the ground beneath the warbringer. A shockwave rolled across the field, flinging friend and foe like rag dolls. Dust clouds swallowed everything, and for a moment the world went silent. Slowly, Reyna rose from the center of the impact zone. The armor hissed and steamed across her body, its chest piece pulsing violently, overcharged and burning red. Her ragged breath testified to a body and mind pushed past their limits. Her knuckles throbbed beneath the armor and her muscles trembled. That final strike had nearly torn her apart, yet the Warbringer lay in shattered rock, embedded halfway into the earth, his armor cracked, faceplate dented, and one of his arms sparking without purpose. For the first time, he looked less like a god and more like a broken machine. Reyna walked toward him, each heavy step filled with dust and fury. Her constructs flanked her, battered yet resolute, while Kel and the rest of her squad emerged from cover, staring in awe. They had seen what she had done, they had felt it. Finally, Kel's voice crackled over the comms. "Is it over, Reyna?" She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes remained fixed on the Warbringer's body. Something felt off, too quiet, too still. Then the ground shifted beneath her feet, not cracked but breathing. A low groan echoed from the planet's crust, a vibration that shook the air, the sky, her bones. The Warbringer's damaged body twitched again, but this time he wasn't moving on his own. He was being dragged downward by something beneath the surface. "What the hell?" Reyna muttered, backing away. Then, as if in surrender, the Warbringer's chest split open, not from damage, but willingly, as if releasing something buried deep inside. From the cavity, a black mist poured upward. It coiled thick and intelligent, reaching toward the sky like fingers before sinking into the moon's crust. And then an older voice returned, not the Warbringer's. "You opened the gate, little wielder," it intoned. Reyna froze. He was never the threat, he was the lock. The ground exploded. A black spire, wider than a cruiser and as tall as a mountain, erupted from the surface, spewing chunks of rock into orbit. It wasn't metal nor stone, it was something alive. Its tip twisted as it grew, splitting into tendrils that screamed into the sky. The Warbringer's broken body was yanked into it and absorbed like fuel. Across the battlefield, the hybrid beasts dropped lifelessly where they stood. They were never meant to win, they were merely a distraction. In horror, Reyna watched as more spires began to rise in the distance, 5, 10 more every second. From the holes left behind, something massive stirred, something buried long ago by beings who understood fear better than any living race ever could. Thorne's panicked voice broke through the comms. "And this isn't an invasion, it's a resurrection. The armor wasn't built for war, it was built to stop it." Reyna's breath caught as everything made sense. The armor didn't choose warriors to conquer, it chose survivors, people broken by pain and hardened by loss, souls desperate enough to give themselves entirely to it. It wasn't a weapon, it was a seal, and she had just broken it. Above the moon, the sky shimmered and tore open a rift, gigantic, howling with static and light. Through it came something immense, its shape unfathomable and ever-shifting. Eyes without bodies and limbs defying logic. It wasn't a creature but a force, and it was free. Her legs nearly gave out. She had won the fight, but she had lost the war. Kel's whispered query through the comms echoed in the silence. "Is it over?" Reyna didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gazed toward the distant rift, her heart pounding with both triumph and despair. The echoes of battle resounded in her mind, a stark reminder that while the armor had granted her extraordinary power, it had also unleashed forces older and more terrible than she could ever control. Now, with the rift widening above, the fate of her world, and countless others, hung in a precarious balance.